This is how to make an Audubon bird call. And here's what the original Audubon Call looks like. It's made out of 3 pieces, wood, aluminum, and a screw, and you can buy them on Amazon for $10 or $12. I'll put a link down in the description. And before, I made a couple test pieces out of different wood and different size of aluminum. That's a piece of pine, and these are a couple hardwood branches from my yard. I think the hardwood worked a little bit better. And here's the 2 pieces of aluminum, and out of those I think the wider aluminum worked a little better. There was more surface area to create friction, and it closely matched that original Audubon Call there. This tool here is called a knurling tool, and it works with 3 hardened steel metal rings, and it cuts grooves in the aluminum like that. And especially in aluminum, it works really well. And now to hold it together, the original Audubon Call had a screw right there that went through the bottom that allowed it to rotate but not fall out. I didn't want to try to attempt that on these first calls that I made, so all I did was just drill a hole in the wood and the aluminum and just tied it together. It wasn't ideal, but it seemed to work. And if you're going to make these, plan on making 5 or 6 of these. Some of these are going to break or split. So I had a couple that broke. Some aren't going to work or make nice calls. So just make a bunch and see which ones work the best. So these 2 that I'm going to make, I used the regular piece of wood and cut these 2 wooden blocks. And then next is you're going to drill a hole, and you want that drill bit to be just smaller than the aluminum rod. So just kind of eyeball it and pick a drill bit that's just smaller. And again, experiment with the depths, maybe 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch down. And then I use the strip sander and just round it off all the edges so it's nice to hold. But again, you're just going to experiment. You can see the depth there. It's maybe 1/2 or 1/4 inch. Try different depths and different lengths. But that's pretty much it for the wood pieces. And now the aluminum piece. And this can be any length. Just that last little 1/4 inch is going to be making contact with the wood. And the grip there, the knurling, is where your index finger and thumb will be. And now this is how to use that knurling tool. You just put it over the piece and you grip it tight and rotate. With the aluminum, you just have to go around 3 or 4 times and it makes nice grooves in there. If you were going to do this with steel, you would really have to hold that really tight, but with aluminum, it's pretty easy to get a nice, those ridges to be cut into the metal. And then just take a hacksaw. Mine, the blade was pretty dull, but just take a hacksaw, cut off the bottom. And this is what the aluminum piece looks like at this point. Now next, I put it in the drill chuck. So I put it in a drill because I'm going to rotate it as I grind that edge. So I'm going to start with the grinding wheel. And I'm going to turn the drill on and the grinding wheel and rotate it to form, to shape that round edge. And again, experiment with different shapes. Then it's over to the strip sander to kind of shape it even more nice and smooth and not polished, but a nice sanded face. And you can see the one on the left there. That's what the finished aluminum piece looks like. And now here's where I kind of screw up. I thought, since that hole in the wood's a little bit smaller, I'm going to put it in the chuck and I'm just going to turn the drill on and push down. And using friction, it'll make a nice tight fit. The thing I forgot was, I showed on the test piece that I snapped those in half, but the thing I forgot was that the aluminum got really hot due to friction and expanded. So while the aluminum was hot, it worked great. It squeaked and everything, but when it cooled down, it stopped working. So the original Audubon Call, the way they fix that is they use rosin or talc. Now what I wanted to do was, first I used a barbecue lighter and I heated up the inside of the wood to kind of char it and burn it and make a little sooty face on it so it's nice and squeaky. And I did that on both of them. And that's what that looks like. And then this is just drilling the holes for the string. With the aluminum, it's a little harder. You got to use that cutting fluid and make sure you clear out the aluminum shavings from the grooves on the drill bit. You don't want to go too fast, just snap the bit in there. So just take your time and make sure all those metal shavings fall out. And then when you're done, you're going to be left with that sharp edge from the drill bit. So just use a metal file to soften that up a little. And again, I wasn't super happy. You don't have to do this with the string, but it worked for these pieces just to hold the striker and the wood piece together so you don't lose them. You know which one goes with which. So this was the point when I realized I had to fix the mistake I made. So the aluminum got hot, and when it was hot, it really worked well. It squeaked with the wood. But when it cooled down, it shrank, and there wasn't a good contact with the wood. So if you're going to do this, make sure that aluminum doesn't get too hot. Have a little cup of water or something and dip that aluminum in there and keep it cool. So when you're reaming out that hole, it doesn't change its shape. The aluminum stays that diameter. So the way I tried to fix it again, I used the lighter to kind of create a sooty interior, make it charred. And then the next thing I did was I took a Sharpie and I colored on the tip of that aluminum, and it actually served two purposes. One, it actually did create a little layer of material and a little more friction with it. It helped out a little. And the other thing it did was it showed me where that piece of aluminum was rubbing on the wood. So it helped a little with friction. But if you look at this, you can see where the aluminum, right there where it's rubbed up, that's the only spot it's rubbing on the wood. So ideally, you want that whole tip to be rubbing on the inside of the wood piece. So to fix this is I kind of rubbed it in some metal shavings and kind of created like a sandpaper material on that. And I kind of just kept twisting it and turning it in there to kind of sand away the inside. And slowly it started to work.
There we go. Now it's really...
I forgot to mention that I used boiled linseed oil and some wax to just kind of preserve the outside face of this wood a little better. But you can see that each one of those is a little different and sounded a little different. That's why you make a whole bunch. And these are a different version. These aren't the Audubon Calls, but these are a different version. And you'll make all these different shapes. Some of those tall ones rubbed on the side a little more. That one on the right there with the natural stick, that one right there seemed to work the best. You can see that bottom is all rubbed off. There's no Sharpie on there. And just make a whole bunch and experiment and see which ones work the best. And they're small and lightweight, and you can keep them in a hiking backpack or go out in your yard and test them out. So I hope this helps. Thanks.